In 2018, up-and-coming amateur club Lansing United was presented with the opportunity of a lifetime. The opportunity to turn pro and to join the newly reorganized USL League One. In order to take advantage of this opportunity, the club needed to find funding and a stadium capable of supporting professional soccer somewhere in the Lansing area. Both of these they found in a controversial sale of the club to the owner of a local minor league baseball team who pledged to pay the league fees and also to convert his 5,000-seat baseball stadium into a stadium suitable for soccer. There was one caveat to the sale, however, that the club would be rebranded, and thus Lansing United was no more, and the Lansing Ignite was born. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Lansing Ignite, a brand new FM 2020 series with Zebu Nation. I hope you enjoyed that little intro. You know, it sort of tells the tale of how we got from Lansing United, an amateur club, to Lansing Ignite, a professional club playing in USL League One. But you know, that's not the end of the story. That's not everything we want to tell in this save. Now, the conceit of this save actually has to do with what happened after the rebranding. What happened after Lansing Ignite started its season and ended its season, more importantly. You may have heard in the news, maybe some of your soccer podcasts may have covered this at the time, but the Lansing Ignite was folded after one season in the USL. So we went through all of that process of rebranding the club, selling it to a new owner, for that new owner to just close up shop and say he's done. And the club, more importantly, is done. So if you don't know, I am from Lansing, so I do have a little bit of insider knowledge of what happened. And basically, the new owner of the club didn't see that running a soccer club was financially viable. And so he tried to sell the club, he tried to get investors. Once he looked into the season and saw that it wasn't financially viable for him, but he was unable, and so they just folded the club, and it's gone. No more soccer clubs in my hometown. So this was, for any soccer fans in the city, this was definitely a big controversy. Now, there is a local sort of groundswell of people trying to start a supporter-owned club, but we'll get to that later. So the conceit of this save is to basically save Lansing Ignite. We need to make them financially viable for the season in order for us to continue moving on and continue playing future seasons with them. So that's what we're going to try to do, and we have some rules, some caveats based on sort of the real life occurrences of what happened with Lansing Ignite. So essentially what happened is the new owner had a minimum attendance that he needed the club to reach in order for it to be profitable, I guess, or at least to break even, and that goal was 4,000 tickets per game, which is pretty big when you look at that stadium. It has about 5,000 seats, but it has room to expand to 7,000, maybe 7,500 with all the standing room. It's got a lot of baseball style amenities, so it has big grassy areas where people can sit. It has a lot of picnic tables and verandas and things where people can just sort of lounge around while they watch a 4-hour baseball game. So if we could fill all of those seats, that would be great, but we basically have two minimums. We need to either hit that 4,000 ticket average per game, or we need to at least have the club operating in a positive balance. So those are our two staples for this save. Either 4,000, averaging 4,000 in attendance, or thereabouts. We'll hedge it if it's close, but somewhere around 4,000 or positive financial numbers. So that's what we're looking at. Now, for reference, the club actually took in about 2,700 on average in terms of attendance for the real season. So they missed the mark quite a bit, but that mark, in my opinion, was a little bit too much for what happened to the club. And we'll get into what happened to the club as we go through this series. But basically, in my opinion, this is a cautionary tale of how not to move up divisions, because it was like a perfect storm of like bad decisions, bad promotion, and just bad timing is what all led to Lansing Ignite. It certainly wasn't the performance on the field. The players played their hearts out. They won a lot of games. They were actually leading their division for almost the entire season. They made the playoffs. There's no reason that the club should have folded, but for financial reasons, it did. So, with that said, let's take a look at the club and see where we stand, see where we're at. So, club info. We are in USL League One. By the way, this is the Uncle Sam updated U.S. pyramid. So we've got the entire pyramid from college all the way up to Major League Soccer. So that's going to help us. I mean, that's the reason we're able to play this game. The other caveat is I do have the editor turned on, as you can see here. I had to manage the roster a little bit to get some of the real players back on the squad. We'll take a look at those in a minute, but that's it. That's the end of the caveats. So, full name Lansing Ignite. Can we take a look at the club background? Founded in 2018, Lansing Ignite, a professional American club currently playing in USL League One. Play their home games at Cooley Law School Stadium. It's a stadium I've been to. Stadium that is basically right down the street from my house. They have fireworks every, I think, Friday, Saturday nights for the baseball games. I can see and hear the fireworks from my backyard. So that's how close I live to this stadium. They possess below average training facilities, poor youth facilities. As far as I know, there is no youth team for Lansing Ignite or Lansing United. There never was, and of course there never will be because the club is gone, but we'll table that for now. Anyway, the club's training ground is also Cooley Law School Stadium. Club has basic academy coaches. As I mentioned, we don't really have an academy. No real history of competition of note. Lansing Art Club with a trophy cabinet waiting to be filled. Now, what does their history say? So their history just says that they were formed in 2018. Now, in the database, Lansing United is its own team. And Lansing United had a pretty decent record as an amateur club. I think they played 4 seasons. I was a season ticket holder for Lansing United for 2 of those 4 seasons. They made the playoffs. They had a win in the U.S. Open Cup. So for a young franchise that had just amateur players, basically college players would play for Lansing United, during the summer when there was no college season going on. They did pretty well. They had a really good coach and, an energetic owner. To me, as a club on the rise, they took a shot at the pros and they failed, and we're going to try to rectify that. Club vision, this will be interesting. Work within the payroll budget. Yes, we are on course, I guess. We'll take a look at that in a minute. Sign players to sell for profit. That would be huge. If we could sell one of these players for like a couple of $100,000, I mean, that would be massive for the club. I don't know if we'll be able to do that, but we'll certainly give it a shot. Open Cup reached the second round. Requirement, we're going to have to work on that. I mean, we should face a club of our own stature in the first round, but, USL, or not USL, I mean, US Open Cup is a crapshoot. You never know who you're going to get, really. And you just never know with the Open Cup. That's why it's the Open Cup. And then USL League One, just be competitive. I think we can do that. Historically, the club did do very well in their first season. They made the playoffs. So if we can at least make the playoffs, we'll be fine. No problems there. Currently, we're at a B-, so we're all good. Now, the big thing, finances. We're currently in the deficit. Not much, 5,900 in the deficit. So, we're right there. In terms of payroll, I'm a little surprised at this payroll. They've given us enough rope to hang ourselves. We've got $1 million payroll. We're currently spending half of that, $594,000, a little over half. We have a scouting budget, which we'll see how much of that we use. It's a tiny scouting budget, $11,000. So that's like a couple of plane tickets, and that's about it. So limited budget, but it's not that limited. We do have some room to play around, but I don't know if we really want to. Even if we could cut some salary, that would be nice, but we'll see about that. Income, we're going to have to pay some close attention to this. I don't know if I'm going to have to break out some spreadsheets or what. Current gate receipts, only $21,000. Merchandising, and I don't know if these are parking fees or probably food vendors is the other, right? 12,000, because honestly, Cooley Law School Stadium does have some very fine food vendors. That's one of the things that I always look forward to going down there, is they've got some really, really nice, just some nice choices down there. Everything from like your classic baseball stadium stuff, peanuts and Cracker Jacks and hot dogs, and there's a famous vendor known as the Turkey Man, who sells big old turkey drumsticks and turkey everything you could possibly think about. So they've got lots of good stuff. So I assume that's from the food venue. They don't really have a lot of parking. The city gets most of the parking money, so I assume that's that. Merchandising, decent, 8,000. That's okay. That's a good start, I guess. Fundraising, that could come from the city. The city had agreed to pay some expenses when they made the big announcement about the soccer team, so that could be that. Match day income, corporate facilities. They do have some nice corporate facilities in terms of like luxury boxes and things like that, but I don't know how many people actually took advantage of them because, it was a brand new team. Interest, okay, so we got some money in the bank. There we go. TV revenue, sponsorship. Prize money would be huge. If we could win some prize money for something, that could go a long way. Expenditures, player salary, of course, is the big thing. Loyalty bonuses, staff salaries, other. Ground maintenance. Ground maintenance is really what killed the club. I don't know that they've got that in the game here. We might have to change that with the editor if it's possible, because what they had to do is convert the stadium from a baseball diamond into a soccer pitch, and that was kind of expensive to maintain. It was basically the off season of the baseball season, I do believe, for the most part. Yeah, most of the season took place in the off season of the baseball season. But they had to spend money on ground maintenance during times of the year when they didn't normally have to spend all that much. You know what I'm saying? They basically doubled their cost in ground maintenance. And then when the two seasons did overlap, they had to spend a lot of money to convert it to baseball and then back to soccer and then back again, in between days. So ground maintenance really did kill us. We'll see what we can do about that. Travel costs, nothing we can do about that really. Agent fees, again, not much we can do about that. Hopefully our director doesn't take any emoluments. That would be devastating. League fines, hopefully none of that happens. We don't have any loans. Yeah, transfer expenditures. We're not going to be looking at transfers. All right. Development Center, like I said, I don't really think we have much in the way of youth. No youth candidates. We have no youth club that I can see here. We do have a couple of guys loaned into us, but nobody loaned out, which we don't have a big enough roster for that. Speaking of that, let us get to our roster. So here's our squad. I prefer to look at the squad on the tactics view just because. So here's basically the only tactic I could form with the club. I think it's kind of close to what they ran. Three central defenders, defensive midfielder, 4 midfielders, 2 strikers up top. From what I remember watching the team play, it was more of a basic 4-4-2, but the coach Nate Miller did like employing 3 central defenders because they had 3 good central defenders, so why not put 3 of them in there? At this level, you can't afford to stick to your guns in terms of formation when you're playing at this level. If you got 3 good central defenders, you put them in there because, you might not have that much talent on the roster. All right, so this is what we got. Keeper, Stephan, Cleveland, 24 years old, on loan from Seattle. So, it's great that we have a quality keeper here, but he's a guy on loan, so he's doing nothing but cost us money. We can't sell him. We can't do anything with him. So this guy is purely here for competitive value. He's 4 stars for our level. He's a little low reflexes, for what I like, but he does have the physical attributes to be a sweeper keeper. He's got nice pace, nice acceleration. He can move around. He's a pretty good keeper. He's good enough. And then those central defenders I was talking about. Malcolm Stewart, Jamaican, 22 years old. Salary only $25K. That's pretty good, but he's got nice marking and heading. He's 6'3". Decent physical abilities. His stamina's a little low, so he's kind of a stay-at-home central defender. He's pretty good, pretty decent. He's young, so his mental attributes aren't that great, but he is, decently determined and aggressive. And in the middle, got 23-year-old Grant Stoneman. He played very well for Lansing Ignite. Just sort of an average dude, but 12 tackling, 12 marking, 12 heading. That's pretty solid. Again, 6'2", nice big kid. Again, low stamina, but he's a little bit better on the mental side. 12 positioning is pretty good for this level. He's a guy with a little bit of value, 115K, looking okay. And then another loan player, Grant Lillard, very talented guy, on loan from Inter Miami, 4.5 stars for this level. He's got a little bit of skill and ability that we don't see in our other guys, right? He's got some physical ability, 6'4", great jumping reach, great strength. He's really, a rock-solid defender for this level, especially mentally, positioning, work rate, leadership. So this is a great guy to have on the team. Very excited to have him from Inter Miami. $1.1 million value, but we can't really do much with it because he's not ours. All right, defensive midfielder. We need some depth at this position. He's basically our only guy. So if he goes out, which currently he's a little bit dinged up. So if he goes out, we don't really have a ton of options to replace him at defensive midfielder, so we'll have to go with some other positions. And he's a decent player, only 7K value, so we're not going to get much out of this guy. Again, he's just here because he's a good player. Chilean, 23 years old. Decent all around, nice skills. First touch, passing, tackling, technique, all pretty good, especially for a defensive midfielder. And our midfield is pretty decent. Now, my opinion, the best player on the club is Rafa Metzigan. At this level, when you see a guy on the field and when he gets the ball, he makes things happen. To me, you can tell the difference so much more at this level than you can at the higher levels, unless the guy is just, all-time world class. But when you look at Rafa, when he gets the ball on his foot, he just has a different air about him than anybody else on the team. Everybody else on the team is sort of like, technical and they do their jobs. But Rafa can take the ball and he can do more than just his job. You look at him, he's got 20 aggression, so he really gets after it. He's got some value, $425K. Don't want to sell him, but if we have to sell him, we could get some value out of him. He's got great crossing, so he can make some plays. First touch of 14 is very good. Decent pace, decent physicals. He seems faster when he's got the ball than he does when he doesn't have the ball. I don't know how that happens. Maybe it's got to do with the first touch. But in my opinion, he's our best player. I don't know if his attributes really bear that out, but maybe it's because he's Brazilian. He just looks better than everybody else. Who knows? But yeah, we're going to look to get the ball to Rafa as much as possible. Lewis Jones from the Virgin Islands. Sort of a, stay-at-home midfielder. He's got nice vision, okay passing, okay first touch, Okay speed, acceleration. Not super special, 24 years old. But, he can do a job for us in the midfield. Ricardo Perez, another guy with a little bit of value, 325K. Not great physicals. He's from Mexico, or at least he's Mexican descent. But he's probably our most technical player. Good penalty taking, dribbling, finishing, first touch, technique. It's all sort of, in the green there. Composure as well. So this guy can score some goals for us. It's just physically he's not terrific. He's okay. He's not terrific. And then on the left-hand side, Marshall Hollingsworth, 25 years old. Another guy with a little bit of value. 4 stars. An American. Physically, he could be our most talented player. At least he's our fastest player, 14 pace. Technically, he's a little bit behind some of our other guys. But, he's only 25 years old. So, well, actually, he's probably not going to get much better than this. But if we could sell him and move him on, I'd be happy about that. We're just looking at all of these guys like, can we sell somebody? Can we sell somebody? I don't know, but he's going to do pretty good for us at the left wing. And then up top, we got a pair of strikers. Rickie, Lopez, Espen. Another guy with some pretty good value. I think he's our highest value guy in terms of non-loan players. Doesn't have great speed, but he's 6'2", 200 pounds, so he's a pretty beefy striker. Good mentals, decent technicals, only 10 finishing. I wish he had a little more, but he's got some work rate, some technique. He's okay. He can do a business for us as a pressing forward. That's what we've got him listed at right now, I think. No, we've got him at advanced forward. We'll have to switch that around. We have Bruce, the lone player, Englishman, only 20 years old, coming from FC Dallas. Probably our most exciting prospect. 6'1", 14 pace, 14 acceleration. He does only have 9 finishing, 9 composure. So I think goal scoring might be a little bit of a problem for us for this team. Our 2 strikers are not great goal scorers. I think we're going to get a lot of goals from our midfield, hopefully. But yeah, we shall see. We shall see. And then on the bench, we got an incredibly limited bench. I think we only have 4 guys on the whole bench. We got our backup goalkeeper, Kirk. Pretty decent. Good reflexes. Command of area, kicking. He's definitely a reserve type keeper, but he's good enough. Nick Moon. Here's a guy who could work his way into the starting lineup at that left winger position in place of Hollingsworth. He could also play some fullback if we need to go to a fullback formation. So he's a pretty decent player. He's one of the guys I had to use the editor to bring him over because they had given us the wrong Nick Moon. They had given us some striker guy. And Nick Moon is a winger / fullback. And he was, in the database, he was playing for Indy 11. So basically I just traded those 2 guys. I traded Indy 11, the striker Nick Moon, and we took the winger Nick Moon. But he's pretty talented. Good speed, good crossing. Some first touch. His technique's a little low. His mentals are a little low. But, that's why he's on the bench. 22 years old. He can get better. He can improve. He's got a little bit of value, 300K. And then Toomey, South African player, 24 years old. He can play left or right wing. A little bit of left or right midfield as well. He's got some versatility for us. Again, he's pretty similar to Moon. Crossing, dribbling, first touch, a little bit better technique. He's just a decent all-around winger. This guy, I think he'll be a good fit for us at some point. And then coming off the bench, Elma in 4. He's okay. He's probably our best finisher on the club, certainly for their strikers. 13 heading. So, we can bring this guy off the bench as a goal scorer is what I'm thinking. He can be our microwave off the bench, the 6th man or 12th man, I guess, in this case. Somebody who we can bring in. We're down a goal. Bring in Elma and see if he can do the job for us. And that's it. That's the whole team. That's the whole bench. Now, I have been looking around, and we do have some potential guys. We got them in here. But they're on trial. And I just don't know if we really want to bring him in to increase our salary. Basically, I'm thinking if we get injuries, we'll bring one or two of these guys in. But if we don't get any injuries, I think we'll go with who we got and see what we can do, because the financial end of this save is much more important than on field what happens. We just need to be competitive and, you know, save all of our gusto for the Open Cup, hopefully. All right. So that's the team. That's the roster. That's what we're going to do in this save. We'll come back next episode, maybe take a look at the stadium and then play our first game. So until then, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.